Your mind is either your most ruthless enemy or your most powerful instrument. It never sits still, never takes a day off, never stops producing thoughts. The question is not whether your mind will be active. The question is who is in charge. Most people wake up and their mind is already running the show, dragging them into worry, replaying old conversations, scrolling for distractions, inventing problems that don't even exist yet. Before they've even stood up, their energy is scattered and their direction is lost. They don't realize that as long as they refuse to lead their mind will lead them in circles, back to the same fears, the same habits, the same limits that held them back yesterday. But the moment you decide to take that control back, everything begins to change. Life doesn't suddenly become easy, but it becomes clear. You stop being a victim of your own thinking and start using it as a tool to build, to focus, and to move. That shift from being dragged by your mind to directing it is the foundation of real strength, real productivity, and real success. You will never outgrow the quality of your thinking. Your job, your relationships, your opportunities, even your confidence are all filtered through your mental habits. Success does not begin with a bank balance, a degree, or a connection. It begins with the choices you make about your thoughts, what you allow, what you reject, what you repeat. An undisciplined mind guarantees an undisciplined life. If your head is full of noise, excuses, and weak interpretations, your actions will reflect that. You will hesitate when you need to move. You will react when you should respond, and you will collapse when you should stand. But when you train your mind deliberately, when you decide what to think, where to focus, what to believe, and how to respond, you step into a different level of control. You become someone who does not need perfect circumstances to move forward. You create inner steadiness in the middle of outer chaos. This is not hype, it is mental leadership. It is the quiet, relentless practice of using your mind as a weapon instead of letting it use you as a target. The chapters that follow are not about feeling momentarily inspired and then sinking back into old patterns. They are about building a new standard for how you think every single day. You will learn how to stop chasing useless thoughts and force your brain to stay on what matters. You will learn how to decide what to think so you never drift again, how to reset your mind each morning before the world gets hold of it, and how to protect your focus when life tries to distract you. You will learn to steer your thoughts like a car, reject weak thinking the second it appears, choose beliefs that build you instead of breaking you, and discipline your mind when nobody is watching. Finally, you will learn to think like the person you want to become before you get there, so your mindset pulls your life upward instead of holding it down. None of this happens by accident. It happens thought by thought, decision by decision. If you are willing to lead your own mind with that level of intention, every other part of your life can change.
Command your mind and stop chasing useless thoughts. If you truly want to change your life, the first non-negotiable is this: you must command your mind. Not suggest, not hope, command. Most people never even question what their mind is doing all day. Their thoughts jump from social media to gossip to worries about the future to what people might be thinking about them, then back to the same old fear-based stories they've told themselves for years. They feel anxious, unclear, and small, and they can't understand why. But the answer is simple. If you fill your head with thoughts that weaken you, you cannot expect to feel strong. Your mind has been acting like an untrained animal, dragging you around on a mental leash. You wake up, and instead of choosing what deserves your attention, you let every random thought into your space. You treat your mental table like it's open seating, and anything, no matter how useless or toxic, can sit down and eat your energy. You have to break that pattern on purpose. Your brain is a machine. It performs whatever it has been trained to perform.
If you have trained it to chase distractions, it will learn to crave distraction. If you have trained it to react emotionally to every small inconvenience, it will spend the whole day on emotional roller coasters. But that same machine can be trained in a different direction. You can train it to focus on your goals, your values, and your priorities. You can train it to question fear rather than obey it, to search for solutions rather than excuses. That training is not a one-time event. It is daily work. You guide your mind. You correct it. You do not allow it to wander without permission. When a thought appears that does not serve you, you stop and say clearly, "This is not helping me. This is wasting my energy." Then you replace it, not with fake positivity, but with practical, grounded thinking that points to what matters right now. This is where discipline begins, not in your schedule, but in your thoughts. There are thoughts that build strength and thoughts that drain it. Your responsibility is to know the difference and choose the right ones over and over again. Force your brain to stay on what truly matters. The difference between people who move fast in life and people who stay stuck for years is rarely intelligence, it is focus. Many people start each day with decent intentions. They tell themselves they will work on their goals, improve their life, and stay productive. Then, one notification appears, one message, one headline, one meaningless distraction. They look at it, and their focus is gone. Something else grabs their attention, then another thing after that, and by the end of the day, they have been mentally busy for hours, but have not moved an inch toward what actually matters. That is how years are wasted, in scattered, unfocused thinking that feels like effort, but produces nothing. If you are serious about changing your life, you must decide that your brain will no longer run loose. You will train it to stay on what is important, not occasionally, not only when conditions are perfect, but every single day. Your brain adapts to whatever pattern you give it. If you constantly switch tasks every few minutes, your mind learns to be restless. It becomes addicted to novelty and unable to stay on one thing long enough to do anything meaningful. But if you train it to stay still, to sit with a single problem, a single priority, a single task for an extended period, it will learn that too. You begin by asking yourself a simple but powerful question. What really matters right now? Not what is loud, not what is urgent in appearance, but what actually moves your life forward. Once you have that answer, you commit. You keep your attention there. When your brain tries to escape to your phone, you bring it back. When it wants to drift into fantasies or fears, you pull it to the present. When it reaches for an easier, more comfortable option, you are the one who says no. Focus does not feel natural at first because the world is constantly trying to pull your mind apart. But if you can resist that pull, especially in chaotic moments, you build a kind of calm power inside yourself. Your energy becomes more stable, your decisions become sharper, and your progress stops depending on how loud the world is. You are no longer someone who moves only when it's easy. You become someone who can stay locked in when it matters most.
Decide what to think and refuse to drift. A strong life begins with strong thinking, and strong thinking begins with one radical choice. You decide what to think. The majority of people never make that decision. They assume that because a thought appears in their mind, it deserves their attention. One minute they are thinking about their dreams, the next they are replaying failures from the past. Then they are worrying about the future, then comparing themselves to someone they don't even know. Their mind is always moving, but it is not moving with direction. This is mental drifting, thinking without intention. Drifting feels busy, but it produces confusion, delay, and weakness. You start to lose control of your time, your mood, your energy, and eventually your life, simply because you never stood up and said, "From now on,
I choose my thoughts. I don't let them choose me. People who consistently succeed are not perfect, but they are intentional. They decide which thoughts are allowed to live in their head. They know that every thought, repeated often enough, shapes their identity. If they allow their mind to return to worry, they become fearful. If they obsess over setbacks, they become hesitant. If they feed on negativity, they become bitter. But if they deliberately focus on growth, solutions, and possibilities, their actions grow stronger, their emotions stabilize, and their momentum returns. They understand that thinking without a purpose is like walking in circles. You end up exhausted and still standing in the same spot. To stop drifting, you must give your thinking a target each day. Ask, what do I want to build today? What deserves my mental energy? Then, train your mind through repetition to return to that on purpose. There will always be noise, old memories, fears, and doubts trying to pull you away. Your job is not to stop them from ever appearing. That's impossible. Your job is to observe them. Ask, is this helping me? And if the answer is no, let them go. Replace them with thoughts that match the person you are trying to become. You don't drift into that person. You think your way into it, intentionally, one choice at a time.
Reset your mind every morning with full intention. Every morning when you wake up, your mind is at a crossroads. Either you take the wheel early or your old patterns do. Your first thoughts in the morning are not harmless. They set a direction. If you begin the day by checking your phone, reacting to messages, scanning bad news, or replaying yesterday's stress, you have already surrendered control. Your mind is now following whatever the world throws at it. But you are not a passenger. You are the driver. That is why you must reset your mind each morning with full intention. Your brain does not wake up empty. It begins exactly where it left off the night before. If you went to sleep anxious, discouraged, or angry, those mental tracks are ready to play again unless you interrupt them. A reset is that interruption. It is a deliberate pause, a fresh decision about how you are going to think before the day starts pulling on you. This reset does not require an hour of rituals. It requires presence. The moment you wake up, instead of grabbing your phone, you stop, you breathe, you sit with yourself for a few minutes and ask clear questions. Who am I choosing to be today? What truly matters for me today? What distractions must I ignore if I want this day to move me forward? You remind yourself of your goals, not all of them at once, but the few that really count. You bring your priorities to the front of your mind, so when the world begins to shout, you are already grounded. Most people begin their day already behind, mentally overloaded, emotionally reactive, and rushing. That is why they feel scattered and unfocused for the rest of the day. They never claimed their mindset before the world claimed their attention. When you build the habit of a daily mental reset, you walk into the day with direction. Your circumstances might still be difficult, but you are no longer letting them decide your attitude. You are not waiting to see what kind of day you will have. You are deciding what kind of person you will be in that day. That level of consistency builds inner stability. It gives you an edge that has nothing to do with luck and everything to do with responsibility.
Control your focus when life tries to distract you. Life will never run out of things to throw at your mind. Messages, notifications, gossip, bad news, other people's drama, your own memories, your own fears. The list is endless. None of these distractions ask for permission. One moment you are focused, and the next your mind has jumped to a conflict, a comment, a notification, or a problem that is not even yours to solve. Before you realize it, your attention has been moved away from your work, your goals, your growth, and into something that has nothing to do with where you want to go. That is why focus is not something you find, it is something you protect. You cannot wait for the world to be quiet before you focus. You must learn to keep your mind on what matters, even when life is loud. That means understanding that not everything that feels urgent is important. Many distractions carry the energy of urgency, but zero value for your future. Your focus is limited, your time is limited, your energy is limited. You cannot pour them into everything and still expect powerful results. So you must become selective. You need to know your own patterns. When does your focus usually break? Is it when you're tired, bored, frustrated? Is it your phone, comparison, overthinking? Once you identify these triggers, you can build defenses. Put the phone in another room when you're doing deep work. Use timers so your mind commits to one task for a set period. Create a clear plan in the morning so your brain knows where to return after interruptions. Schedule deliberate breaks so you don't burn out and go hunting for random distractions just to feel relief. And remember, not all distractions are external. Some are thoughts, memories, anxieties, worst-case scenarios your mind loves to invent. When you catch yourself mentally wandering, ask, is what I'm thinking about useful right now? Is it leading to action or just spinning me in circles? If it's not useful, you shift. You come back to your priority, not with anger, but with quiet firmness. This constant returning is the practice that builds real focus. The goal is not to live in a distraction-free world. That world does not exist. The goal is to become the kind of person who can stay committed when everyone else is drifting. Every time you bring your attention back, you are proving to yourself that your mind works for you, not the other way around.
Steer your thoughts the way you steer a car. Your thoughts are not wild forces moving on their own. They feel that way when you've never learned to guide them, but in reality, you are always behind the wheel. The trouble is that most people have been driving their minds on autopilot for years. They let their thoughts go wherever habit and emotion want to go. One moment they're focused, the next they're thinking about a mistake from 3 years ago. One second they feel motivated, the next they're trapped in worry about something they cannot control. They are not steering, they're simply reacting to whatever mental road appears. When your thoughts are unguided like this, your life starts to drift. You end up off course, wondering why your reality does not match your potential. The solution is not to shut your mind off, it is to take the wheel with intention. Every day there are moments when you can feel your mind turning in the wrong direction. You start doubting yourself for no reason. You imagine other people judging you. You build excuses around why you can't act. In those moments, you always have a choice. You can let the thought run, or you can turn. Turning means you stop and question the direction. Why am I thinking this? Where will this thought take me if I keep it? Does it move me forward or hold me back? If the answer is that it weakens you, you do not negotiate with it. You don't say, maybe it's right. You turn the wheel. You choose a different thought, one aligned with your values, your goals, and the person you are becoming. Directing your thoughts is not about pretending your problems don't exist. It's about refusing to let your problems steer the car. You can acknowledge pain without surrendering your mind to it. You can feel fear without feeding it. You make your values, not your moods, your GPS. That requires clarity about where you're going, who you want to be, what you want to build, how you want to show up. Once you know that destination, you set standards for which thoughts are allowed in your vehicle. Thoughts of discipline, courage, and purpose stay. Thoughts of self-pity, resignation, and constant blame get removed. At first, you will overcorrect. You'll drift, notice it late, and swing back hard. That's fine. With repetition, you'll catch it earlier and earlier. Eventually, steering becomes natural. Your default becomes strength, not spiraling. Reject weak thinking the second it appears. Weak thinking does not always shout. Often it whispers. It shows up as a quiet voice that sounds reasonable. You're not ready. You're not as good as they are.
What if this doesn't work and you embarrass yourself? These thoughts feel familiar, and that is why they're dangerous. You've heard them so many times that you begin to mistake them for truth. If you let them stay, they grow. They gather evidence. They pull your energy down, slow your actions, and shrink your confidence. That is why your response must be immediate. You do not argue with weak thoughts. You don't sit with them to analyze whether they might be right. You reject them the moment you recognize them. Weak thoughts love hesitation because hesitation feeds them. The longer you stare at them, the more believable they become, so you cut them off fast. Rejecting weak thinking is not about pretending you have no flaws or challenges. It is about recognizing that certain thoughts have one purpose only: to keep you small. They never lead to action, clarity, or strength. They only lead to delay and self-sabotage. When one of these thoughts appears, you call it out. This does not help me. This is not who I am. Then you replace it with something rooted in your values and direction. I may not be perfect, but I am capable of learning. I am allowed to start. I am building this one step at a time. You create a set of strong, honest statements about who you are and where you are going, and you return to them whenever doubt speaks. Over time, this becomes a reflex. You also study your own patterns. When does weak thinking hit you hardest? Before you start something new? Right after a failure? When you compare yourself? Once you know your triggers, you can prepare for them. Weak thoughts often disguise themselves as being realistic. But the reality is this: if a thought repeatedly stops you from growing, it is not realism, it is resistance. You do not owe that resistance a seat in your mind. You owe your future a stronger response. So you move. You take action, even small action, because every step you take is evidence against the lie. You don't wait for weak thinking to disappear. You starve it by refusing to feed it your attention.
Choose what to believe and guard it relentlessly. Belief is not just an idea you hold. It is a force that shapes everything you do. The way you speak to yourself, the risks you take, the habits you form, the people you keep around you, all of it grows from what you believe about yourself and your possibilities. Yet most people's beliefs were not chosen, they were inherited. They absorbed them from parents, culture, failure, fear, and past experiences without ever asking, does this belief serve me? If you believe deep down that you are not capable, not worthy, or not the kind of person who succeeds, you will unconsciously sabotage every opportunity that comes your way. You will talk yourself out of the room before you even walk into it. That's why you must step back and consciously decide, what do I believe about who I am and what I can build? Where did that belief come from? Does it lift me or limit me? Belief is a decision, not a mood. You do not wait for the world to confirm it. You choose it, and then you protect it. When you choose to believe that you are capable of growth, of discipline, of success on your own terms, you are not claiming perfection, you are claiming responsibility. You are saying, I will not let my past define my ceiling. I will not let other people's small thinking define my identity. That belief will be tested. You will have days when nothing works, when results are slow, when criticism is loud and support is silent. In those moments, the easiest thing to do is to adjust your belief downward to match your frustration. You tell yourself, maybe I was asking for too much. That is how dreams die, quietly, under the pressure of temporary struggle. To avoid that fate, you must keep your belief visible and alive. Write it down, repeat it, let it guide your decisions. Surround yourself with people who challenge you to grow, but do not crush your sense of possibility. Protect your belief from constant negativity, from your own worst stories, and from environments that mock growth. And above all, back your belief with action. Every time you show up when it would be easier to quit, every time you keep a promise to yourself, you are proving your belief real. You don't wait to feel unshakable. You build unshakable belief through consistent steps, through effort, through evidence that you can do hard things. That kind of belief cannot be given to you or taken from you. You earn it, and once you do, it becomes the engine behind everything you create.
Discipline your mind when no one is watching. The real measure of your mindset is not how you behave when everyone is paying attention. It is how you think when no one will ever know the difference. Discipline that exists only in public is not discipline, it is performance. Your mind does not need an audience to talk you out of your goals. It will do that quietly, in the middle of an ordinary day when you feel tired or uninspired. It will tell you, skip it just this once. You can try again later. This doesn't matter that much. If you follow that voice repeatedly, you train your brain to prioritize comfort over commitment. You become someone who can push hard when there's pressure, but disappears when nobody is checking in. That inconsistency is exactly what keeps people average for years. They don't fail in public, they fail in private, thought by thought, decision by decision. To discipline your mind, you must create your own internal standard, a level of thinking you refuse to drop below, whether or not anyone else is around. That standard does not allow endless self-pity, constant excuses, or mental stories that keep you powerless. It doesn't mean you never feel those things. It means you don't let them run your day. Instead, you build the habit of asking yourself better questions when you feel weak. Is this thought helping me right now? Is this how the person I want to become would think? What is the next small action I can take instead of sitting in this? You become your own coach. You call yourself out when your mind starts bargaining for the easy way. You don't wait for motivation. You rely on decision. Discipline is built in those quiet moments when you could cut corners and nobody would notice, but you would. You wake up and choose focus instead of scrolling. You come home tired and give one more honest effort instead of numbing yourself. You catch your mind wandering in the middle of the day and bring it back. When rest is needed, you take it, but as part of your plan, not as an escape. Over time, these unseen decisions stack up. You develop a quiet pride because you know that your consistency is real, not staged. You stop needing applause to move forward. You move because you respect yourself enough to follow through, even in the dark. Think like the person you want to become. Your future self is not some distant stranger. It is built right now through the quality of your thoughts. You cannot become a disciplined, confident, focused person while thinking like someone who is scattered, doubtful, and afraid. You can work hard on the outside for a while, but if the thinking on the inside never changes, you will always snap back to your old level. That is why you must decide to think like the person you want to become before you feel like that person. You do not wait for success to grant you a new mindset. You adopt the mindset that leads to success and let your actions rise to match it. This begins with clarity. You sit down and define that future version of you in detail. How do they handle pressure? What do they focus on during hard days? How do they speak to themselves after a mistake? How do they treat their time, their health, their relationships? Once you have that picture, you use it as a mental standard. Each day, you measure your thinking against that standard. A challenge appears. Old thoughts start. This is too much. I can't handle this. In that moment, you ask, how would the future me think here? Maybe they would say, this is difficult, but I've handled hard things before. Let me focus on the next step. That is the thought you choose, even if you don't fully feel it yet. You are not faking, you are practicing. You are rehearsing the mindset you intend to live with permanently. Over time, your brain learns this new pattern. The gap between how you think now and how your future self thinks becomes smaller. Your responses change. You react less, respond more. You don't crumble under criticism. You extract what's useful and keep moving. You don't let setbacks define you. You let them refine you.
And as your thoughts rise, your behavior naturally follows. You begin to show up earlier, stay present longer, prioritize better, and speak more powerfully. Not because you suddenly became someone else, but because you finally started thinking like the person you were capable of being all along. Thinking like your future self will not always be understood by the people around you. Some are attached to your old patterns. They know you as the one who procrastinates, who avoids risk, who plays small. When you start thinking differently, taking yourself seriously, protecting your focus, saying no more often, they may question you or even push back. That's fine. You are not building your mind for their comfort. You are building it for your own growth. So you stay committed. On the hardest days, when old thoughts scream the loudest, you come back to your decision. I have already chosen who I am becoming, and I will think from that place, not from the past. You may not control every event in your life, but you always control the direction of your thoughts. And when your thoughts consistently point toward strength, discipline, belief, and focus, your life has no choice but to follow. In the end, everything in this journey comes down to leadership, self-leadership, commanding your mind instead of letting it chase useless thoughts, forcing your brain to stay on what matters when distractions call your name, deciding what to think so you never drift into weakness by accident, resetting your mind each morning so you start from clarity instead of confusion, controlling your focus when life tries to overwhelm you, steering your thoughts like a driver who knows exactly where they are going, rejecting weak thinking the instant it appears, choosing beliefs that empower you and protecting them fiercely, disciplining your mind in the quiet hours when no one is watching, thinking like the person you want to become until that person is no longer just a vision, but your everyday reality. None of this is easy, but all of it is possible. You build it one thought at a time, one choice at a time, one day at a time. Your mind is yours. Guard it, guide it, and use it to build the life you know you're capable of.
Build ruthless awareness, strong anchors, and a clean mental environment. Taking control of your mind starts with ruthless awareness. Most people move through the day without ever noticing what their thoughts are doing. They feel tired, unmotivated, or confused, but they never stop to ask, "What have I been thinking about for the last hour?" Until you become a witness to your own thinking, you cannot become the leader of it. So your first task is to watch your mind like an honest observer. Notice where your thoughts go when you're not paying attention. Do they drift to worry, to comparison, to pointless fantasies, to old arguments and past mistakes? That is your mental clutter. Those are the loops that quietly drain your strength. Once you can see those patterns, you can finally decide what stays and what goes. Awareness is not about judging yourself. It is about becoming too clear to be fooled by your own habits. But awareness alone is not enough. Your mind needs anchors, clear priorities it can return to when it starts drifting. If you don't give it direction, it will grab for whatever looks interesting in the moment. That's why you must write down your goals, your values, and your main priorities. Put them where you can see them. Begin the day by reviewing them, even for a few minutes. These become your mental reference points. When distraction appears, you can ask, "Does this match my priorities?" If the answer is no, you return to your anchors. Over time, this return becomes automatic. You are training your mind to recognize what matters and to treat everything else as noise. Along with anchors, you must clean your mental environment. Your mind becomes what you feed it. If you spend hours consuming nonsense, drama, and shallow content, your brain will start to treat those things as important. You cannot build a powerful mindset on a diet of mental junk. Choose your input with intention, what you watch, what you read, who you listen to. Guard your attention like something valuable, because it is. A strong mind is not built in chaos, it is built in an environment where your thoughts are supported, not constantly attacked.
Master emotion, pressure, and the power of intentional recovery. A powerful mind is not an emotionless mind. You will feel fear, frustration, doubt, sadness, and anger. The difference between a controlled mind and a chaotic one is not the presence of emotion, but the response to it. When emotion spikes, most people let it hijack their focus. One difficult conversation, one setback, one comment from someone else, and their thoughts spiral for hours. If you want mental strength, you must learn to pause in the middle of that emotional wave. Instead of instantly reacting, you stop, you breathe, you let the emotion rise without immediately believing every story it brings. Then you ask, does following this feeling help me move forward, or will it drag me off course? That one question creates distance. It reminds you that feelings are signals, not commands. You can acknowledge them without surrendering your focus to them. Real strength is built when you can hold your focus under pressure. Anyone can be calm when life is quiet. The real test is when you are tired, stressed, or overwhelmed, and you still choose your thoughts instead of letting them run wild. In those moments, remember this: you don't have to control everything happening around you. You only have to control what you give your mind to. That is enough. To do that consistently, you must also respect the role of recovery. A burned-out mind will always chase distraction and emotional drama because it is too exhausted to stay disciplined. Rest is not laziness when it is intentional. It is part of mental discipline. Schedule breaks. Step away from the noise on purpose. Give your brain time to reset so it does not go hunting for escape in the form of useless scrolling or overthinking. But let your rest be clean. Don't fill it with more mental junk. Use it to breathe, to reflect, to reconnect with your values. A rested brain can focus. A calm nervous system can handle pressure. The goal is not to avoid hard days. It is to become the kind of person whose mindset stays grounded inside them, no matter how loud life gets outside.
Win by consistency, conscious return, and long-term identity. The real transformation of your mind does not happen in one big moment. It happens in small, repeated choices. The quiet decision to return to strength every time you notice yourself slipping. Drifting will always try to pull you back into old thoughts, old fears, and old habits. You will catch yourself scrolling without thinking, replaying painful memories, or building imaginary problems in your head. That does not mean you are failing. It means you are human. The difference between the old you and the you are becoming is how quickly you return. Weak minds stay lost inside the drift for hours, days, or even years. Strong minds notice, pause, and come back. They say, I see what my mind is doing, and I am not following it there. Then they return to their priorities, their beliefs, their chosen identity. Every return is a victory. Every time you correct your course, you are strengthening the mental muscle that refuses to live on autopilot. You must also think in terms of identity, not just behavior. You are not just forcing yourself to focus, to be disciplined, or to reject weak thoughts for a few days. You are deciding, this is who I am now. A person who guards their mind, a person who chooses their beliefs, a person who thinks like their future self even when their present situation has not caught up yet. When you see yourself that way, your standards rise. Certain thoughts simply become unacceptable, not because you are pretending they don't exist, but because they do not belong to the person you are committed to being. Other people may not understand this shift. They may still relate to your old version, the one that hesitated, delayed, and doubted. That is fine. You are not building your mindset for their approval. You are building it for your own future. So you stay consistent. You reset every morning. You protect your focus during the day. You challenge weak thinking the second it speaks. You direct your thoughts like a driver who knows where they are going. And when you drift, as you sometimes will, you return without drama. This is the long game. Over time, the gap between who you were and who you are becoming closes. Your actions begin to match your words. Your results begin to match your standards. Not because life magically changed, but because you finally led the one thing that shapes everything else, your mind.